The word, the word. Switch the bracelet on. The word, the word. The word, the word. Switch the bracelet on. The word, the word. The word, the word. Switch the bracelet on. The word, the word.
Welcome to The Word on Blake 7. Here we are, ready to review another episode from Series A, and it is a big welcome, as always, to Dave, to Nick, to Lynn, and our special guest, although he says, please don't call me special, just call me the guest. It's Neil Shearer from the Vindictus Novel. You can find him on Facebook. The link will be in the chat. I will post it as we get started, and Neil will be telling us a little bit more about that a little bit later on in the show. But spoiler alert for everyone who is maybe tuning into this episode. Why you would tune into episode 5 is the first episode, I don't know, but you might have just stumbled across it tonight. Series A, episode 4, Time Squad. I give a review of the episode from the Bible, the original Bible, the program guide, which of course is by Tony Atwood. Very good book, something which I've treasured since childhood. So here we go. Blake is determined to attack the Federation and thus change the status of his crew from minor irritants into a major problem. He decides to strike at the communications complex on the planet Saurian Major. Whilst en route for the planet, the crew of the Liberator answer an emergency signal and take on board a small projectile which appears to contain 3 aliens in cryogenic suspension. One of the aliens has died through a malfunction of his chamber, but 2 remain, and the Liberator's crew take steps to revive them. Blake, Villa, and Avon teleport to Saurian Major in order to locate the resistance forces on the planet, with whom they hope to launch a strong attack on the Federation complex. Once on the planet, they are attacked by Callie, a native of the planet, Oren, who has telepathic ability. She reveals that she is the only survivor of a guerrilla force that was attacking the Federation. She joins Blake and the others, and they break into the communications complex. Meanwhile, on the Liberator, Jenna and Gan are keeping watch on the ship and on the aliens. Gan explains to Jenna that he's unable to kill because of the limiter placed in his head by the Federation after he'd killed a Federation guard. Gan goes to check on the aliens and discovers that the 2 have already left the capsule. They overpower him, and his limiter prevents him from killing them. Zen identifies the aliens as guardians of a set of genetic banks carried in their projectile. The Guardians and Gene Bank together represent a complete invasion force, and the Guardians will attack anyone and everyone who is seen as a threat to the genetic banks. Whilst Jenna and Gan are struggling with the aliens, Blake and the rest of the crew with Callie set explosive devices within the computer complex, but when Blake tries to get the Liberator to teleport them back, there is no response. For at that moment, Jenna comes under attack from a previously unsuspected 4th alien, and Gan, still suffering from his previous experience, is unable to help her. Eventually, Gan manages to teleport the 4 back to the Liberator and to overpower the 4th alien. Callie then agrees to join the Liberator, thus making 6 crew members, with Zen bringing it up to 7. Okay, so there we go. That is Time Squad. We've all watched it. We've all, as always, gone through our usual questions. And Dave, we will come to you with first of all your views on this episode as a whole. And you've got a Serene t-shirt on, Dave. So well, as always, you're bringing something to the stage again. What is it?
Well, I thought it was the name of the planet. Was it not Saurian Major?
Oh, dear me. Oh. That's the worst one yet, Dave. It's the worst one yet. Okay, go for it.
What did I think of it? Yes, I thought it was quite a good episode. 2 storylines combined into one episode. I thought was quite good. The usual problems with any episodes of these, in as much as some of the acting was a bit wooden, I thought, in places. And any action scenes, I think this was even worse. I think, Nick, you said last week you weren't impressed with the action scenes. I think the action scenes, I think they're much worse this week. But yeah, a pretty good episode, intelligent script, good storyline, quite impressed.
Okay. So, I mean, any changes you would have made to this particular episode?
Hundreds.
Okay. Any specific ones, Dave?
I would get some good actors in it. You know, the main cast are fine. Any extras I've noticed, this is episode 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any extras involved in this series are just absolute rubbish, I think. So we'll do something about that. It didn't make a lot of sense that Blake and Jenna went down to the projectile and left Avon in charge. I didn't really think that was logical. But perhaps there's romance blooming, I don't know. Is there romance blooming in the future?
We're not going to tell you.
Possibly say.
All I can say is I hope the sex scenes are better choreographed than the fight scenes have been, if that does happen. So there you go. So there's bits and pieces like that I would change, and lots of things on special effects. I think Jenna's clown outfit now is getting old after one episode. She looks like she's been on Multicolored Swap Shop, you know. But generally, no, there's not a lot I would change with the storyline. I thought it was quite good, quite intelligent.
It's 2 in a row.
For you.
That's 2 in a row. Sickness Alpha and Time Squad. Dave likes the storylines. That's good. It's kept him interested.
Steve, quit here. You've done it.
But yeah. That was the whole point of trying to convert Dave. All right, Nick. Welcome back. You've been on your travels again. Good to see you. And yeah, give us your thoughts on the storyline and the script, and any way you think it could have been improved.
Okay, I like the story. I think I'm right in saying it's the first one where, as Dave's just mentioned, they've got sort of 2 converging plots that are going on at the same time, which is something that's used regularly throughout Hereafter. I particularly like the adventures down on Dave's planet Saurine. I like the sort of resistance work of World War II type, going to sabotage a base, that type of adventure that they get involved in. I like that. I thought the introduction of Callie was really good. I think she's probably at her strongest point in this very episode, for me anyway. I thought it had a little bit of unnecessary question marks in when they get teleported across to that capsule. You know, logically, why was the capsule made for somebody that's probably about 5'1", and they're having to stoop? When clearly, when these Guardians get out, they're just normal-sized humans. They're not short. So why would they build and use a capsule that was so restrictive? I thought that was a bit unnecessarily raising of question marks.
Could be the budget, Nick. Could be the budget.
Well, it could be, Dave. It could be. Yeah, you're right. And like Dave said, I thought the fight scenes were a bit clunky. They could have done with either better direction or more rehearsal to make them look a little bit more flowing and realistic. But in terms of the plots, I enjoyed both of the converging plots. I thought the one on the Liberator was, quite reasonably tense, and I enjoyed the sort of, as I said, the resistance attack on the complex on Saurian Major, which again is a place you might recognise if you watch Doctor Who, because that Albury nuclear power station was used in Hand of Fear in Doctor Who.
Ah, right, okay, didn't know that. There you go, you learn something new every day. Okay, Lynn,
anything else, but
you recognise that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Lynn, what's your views? You've been on your travels as well. You're not back home yet, so thanks for doing it tonight. But thoughts on the storyline and the script and how it could have been improved?
No problem. Yeah, as Nick said, first time we've got an A and a B plot, or a equivalence. I don't think it was necessarily one above the other this time. It's interesting. I like Time Squad, but I don't think I have quite as fond a view or as favourable as the rest of you. I think the Time Squad element, if you like, on the ship, I think it is quite tense. I think the action scenes, the fight scenes, and the way, and I think it must be Pennant Roberts largely as a director. I don't think the action piece is his thing. So those don't work for me. I like the concept of what they're doing with the gene banks and the cryogenic suspension. I like that a lot. I found is it the first piece where Zen won't do something because he doesn't think he won't tell them why he won't do it, but he just won't help them. It's the first one of those we get, and it doesn't. I don't know whether it really goes anywhere, but I quite like that. The first mention of Gan's limiter. That is an extra little point that we can think about. I like that. The B plot down on Saurian Major. It might just be my impression from the time I watched it first, and when I see it now, I routinely forget why they're going there, because to me the reason they're there is to collect Callie and bring her to, in as part of the crew, and I forget what they're going to blow up almost every time I watch it. So I'm not quite sure what that's missed for me, but it certainly has a little bit. But Callie's introduction is great. Again, with Nick, I agree. She is at her. She's a freedom fighter this time. She's tough. She's no nonsense. She's a little more alien than a lot of the rest of the series, just in the way she is. And I think someone will tell me if I've got this wrong, that this was the first thing that they actually filmed, I think, of the whole series. Someone is going to tell me I'm wrong, but I know it was filmed very early. And so she pitches in with that. I like that performance a lot. So I think the fight scenes could have been improved. I think everyone's going to say that. And as I say, I just forget why we're there, but I'm pleased that we have Callie.
Great stuff. And of course, last but by no means least, our guest today, Neil. Welcome, mate. Good to see you. Thanks for agreeing to come on. Again, just the same question. Just your overall thoughts on the storyline of this particular episode and the script, and if you think there could have been any improvements.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is that this is the last part of the beginning of Blake 7, so we finally get the 7 together, and when they made them initial VHS videos at the start, this was the last bit that was included in that one. So we get to the end of the beginning of Blake 7. We get the 7 together. I like the episode in general. The two storylines come together quite well. They work together well. They're both quite tense. Neither of them is a subplot or a main plot. They both have equal weighting. I think that works quite well. I found some things within the episode itself a bit strange at times. Some of the language at the beginning that was being used when they were trying to move the ship around for the first time, stabilize and trim back to stationary. I thought I was in hairdressers or something. To be honest, I didn't know what was going on there. I never heard language like that before or after in Blake 7, to be honest. I think it's also the first time that we really get a sense of a Blake Avon dynamic coming to show. In them first opening scenes, Avon's really having a good old pop at Blake there, and is really quite cynical about all his plans to go down to Saurian Major and whatnot. And there's some cutting lines in there, and I think we'll talk about best lines later on, so I won't jump to that just now. Lynn mentioned the bit about Zen. I found all that a little bit forced to get the point about the Gan limiter in. It didn't really work well for me, that line, and I don't think Zen ever really behaved that kind of abstractly afterwards. He would have his abstract moments, but it was just belligerent refusal to tell the crew what was going on, as far as I could tell, which I didn't think worked. I also thought the plot points of the teleport burnout, and then Zen not being able to dock the capsule, the alien capsule, I thought they were a little bit weak. If you're going to write stuff, try and make it plausible. I thought they were a tad on the weak side, to be honest. It was just like, throw them in there because it's going to work for the plot, rather than why had that happened. But I think the relationships of the crew start to form, which is great. Blake and Jenna, somebody said earlier, started to look a little bit cutchy, a little bit cozy. Is a Welsh word in there for you, but a little bit cozy, Vida and Avon are starting to play off each other. Of course, we know that dynamic gets better throughout the whole entire 4 seasons. And the contempt Avon has for Blake is starting to show as well. Gan's still kind of there in the background, being nice guy Gan, until we start to see him a little bit more in the action. the Callie entrance I really loved, to be honest, and I thought Jan Chapel was great from the outset there, just to come in on that scene there on Sorry and Major, and really come across as an all action kind of badass character at the beginning, and the only thing that I take from that is I'd really loved if we carried on with Callie in that way through the series, to be honest, rather than what became of her character development. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail because obviously you'll have future programs, but or future episodes of this. So, yeah, but I thought Jan was really great, and I also really thought the distinctly alien voice when she went into Blake's head, I thought she sounded, I think Lynn, you said she sounded alien straight away, or more alien than anyone else has on Blake's ends to this point. So I thought it worked really well. I never understood why the Federation would have a comms complex in a power station, but, you know, it didn't look like a comms complex. I mean, furnaces everywhere and steam everywhere, so I wasn't too sure about using a power station, if I'm going to be honest. It could have maybe done with something else, but it was better than using a studio set, probably. The endings of the two storylines come together well. There's a bit of tension there. And then we get the reveal at the end. Oh, there's now 7 of us. Callie comes on board. I wasn't quite sure what Callie failed at, though, in a big speech at the end. I didn't quite get what she'd failed at. I don't think that's ever really revealed, is it? Maybe I'm wrong, but she said she failed.
Dress sense, was it?
Mm?
Was it
Dress sense. We might disagree on that, Dave, but we'll come to that later. And there's that great bit at the end where Jenna is saying, "Oh, the wisest of bringing an alien on board," and you get these looks between Callie and Jenna at the end, and I was like, "What's going on there?" I mean, is Jenna a little bit jealous of Blake is kind of cozying up to Callie? I don't know, but the looks between the two actors, and particularly Jan Chapel, was always really good at acting with her eyes and her facial expressions. I thought that was really good. That's it. That's my thoughts on the episode.
Great stuff. I can't disagree with most of your points, to be honest. Time Squad's not my favourite episode. We come to that a lot later. But for me, I think this episode gets up to such a great start. I think the opening gambit with the crew as they're approaching the planet are fantastic, and there's just got that kind of feel to it. And I remember, you know, as a kid watching those and just being like blown away with this spaceship and all of that like technical jargon that they use, which Neil just mentioned there, really had me like, oh, wow, this is amazing, you know. And I remember looking at the ship and being so impressed, and watching back again, it still looks impressive. You know, they got so much right with the Liberator and those internal shots, and bearing in mind what they were working with, they did manage to achieve something rather special with it, I think. I think the plot line and the script, you know, I would like to mark them separately. I think the script for this probably gets an 8 out of 10 for me, but I think the plot line's probably more of a 6.5, 7. And that's probably let down by similar things that you mentioned, which is, you know, this forced GAN limiter thing. And the GAN limiter thing bothers me because prior to this, he does have a situation where on Cygnus Alpha, he has to get involved in some kind of circumstances which are what I would deem violent. Yeah. And there's no mention of a limiter in Cygnus Alpha, yet suddenly we've got this limiter now, which is quite visible on the top of his head. And I think that's where I felt a little bit let down with this episode. I felt they'd missed a trick in Cygnus Alpha, and this comes with change in director and direction and maybe continuity. If it had been the same, we know it was the same script writers, you know, all the way through. You know, Terry Nation was the man who, you know, was basically putting this together. Chris Boucher was on board as the series script editor. But this is something that should have been picked up by somebody, and I felt let down by that. I do feel that the fight scenes were the things that let it down. Now maybe that's because the actors weren't used to doing them. You know, maybe Sally Nivette wasn't used to doing fight scenes, and you know, it's something that was thrown on her. But I just think had they condensed them more and not strung them out for as long. And maybe that's why they don't look as good, because they've been strung out maybe to make up the time. These have to be like 50-minute episodes. Then maybe that's why we've got more additional stuff. And it just didn't have that. It didn't have realism. And then coming down to what Dave said about the acting, the guest actors in this really let us down. And I think ultimately, Tony Smart, Mark McBride, Frank Henson were the three aliens in it, which also, those guys, I haven't Googled them and looked at their IMDb. I'm not sure whether they went on to do anything extra after this, or whether they were just supporting artists. But they just didn't have any. They weren't real. There was that other bit as well where Jenna goes to the pod and the alien, like, she puts a hand in and he grabs the hand like that, and then there's this exchange between the alien and Jenna, and then she puts the hand down and walks back away. And I thought, hold on a minute, I had to rewind it again. I went, well, hasn't he just responded? Wouldn't she have run for the hills, gone out and said, one of the aliens is awake, and gone back to find Gan? Instead, what she does is she holds his hand, puts the hand down, goes back out, does this walk around the whole complex until she gets attacked badly by this other alien, and then pulls the door shut, and the hand's like sticking out. Like, that's the worst possible scene in this episode.
Yeah.
And
she kind of dips her head back towards the alien's outstretched arm, says, go on, grab my hand, grab my head, and then bites the arm.
Yeah.
What was that?
That unfortunately ruins it for me. And the whole spanner or whatever it is that's thrown off her back, which clearly lands on her back.
On her back, that's our arm.
And it doesn't make a clanging noise when it lands, so it couldn't have been very hard. And then she gets a bruise on her arm. She goes and sees Gan, and he's like, he's not. You think he would be a bit more alert? That whole thing's weak, and it lets this episode down for me. I think the stuff on the planet
again, Steve. I think.
Well, yeah, we're going to come to that, aren't we? The stuff on the planet was great. I thought, Jan Chap was fantastic in this episode. I mean, this is her time to shine. I think the combination of her and Gareth Thomas on screen is fantastic. I cringed a little bit at the whole Villa bit again, but they're just building his character, I guess, where he comes from behind the rocks in the quarry. But I just loved that bit. I love that scene. And yes, we all laugh when we see the power stations and stuff. Get used to it, because there's more use of power stations and quarries throughout the next 4 series. But it give that, again, as a young fan, it just gave you that real feeling of industrial kind of business going on. And I loved the use of the Federation in this. The Federation guards for the first time are more, they're more prominent. I still get that kind of, ooh, yeah, they come, when they're running up the stairs in those awful costumes and masks. And it's like, you do get fear. And that's one thing that Terry Nation got. You had the Daleks in Doctor Who, but he had the Federation guards in Blake 7. And as a youngster watching it, there is fear looking at those kind of gas mask, kind of things coming towards you. So, but overall, yeah, look, I think it could have been better. Fight scenes could have been better. That Gan Limiter storyline definitely could have been better. But overall, yeah, I liked it. And again, as Neil's pointed out, this was really the establishing of, the 7. This was the opportunity for, at the end of the episode, to say, this is Blake 7, and this is us for the rest of the series. Let's get on with it. So great stuff. We'll move on now to the director. And again, and it is a bit of a cringe moment, I guess, for a few of us on here. He's Pennant Roberts. And just to remind you, Pennant had an illustrious career, it has to be said. As well as Blake 7, Doctor Who, in the science fiction side of things. Also contributed to some programs such as the Aneiden Line, The Professionals, Angels, which of course was a huge hit in the 1970s, Survivors, Softly Softly, of course, which is when Blake 7's budget came from, and Juliet Bravo, Tango. The list is endless. A huge career, endless career. But unfortunately, Dave, also involved in Blake 7. And I've got to be honest, already Pennant Roberts episodes are the ones which stand out, not for a good reason.
Yeah. Oh, you asking me? Sorry.
Yeah, Dave. What could Pennant Roberts done better? I guess and what did you think of the direction overall?
Sorry, I think he's really poor. I think he's a lazy sort of director, and particularly with the action scenes, he could have done them a lot better if he just took a little bit more time on them. The scene on the planet where Blake gets attacked by the lady in red, she just touches his shoulder like that. When he's in front of the campfire, she literally touches his shoulder, and he rolls downhill like he's being hit by a bus. And anybody looking back at that scene can see how ridiculous it is, the overreaction, the initial impact, and why a director would just allow that to, be in the final cut. So I'm not impressed with him at all. I know you mentioned his CV, but I mean, these are just maybe it's one-off episodes he's done in there longer in the series, so I don't know how good he is at anything else, to be honest. And some of the shows you mentioned, I don't particularly like anyway. So I think, as I said earlier on, I think the two storylines for the first time, the script was pretty good. He's not good with action, and I think some of the things that he misses is because he's lazy or he's in a hurry and he can't be bothered. But,
Okay. Yeah, it's two negatives for Pennant, because I'm certainly not a fan of Pennant's episodes. I've got to be perfectly honest. Nick, what's your view? Could Pennant have done anything better in this?
Well,
what's your views on the overall direction of this episode?
As I've already said earlier, it like Dave's just been mentioning there, it's the action scenes that let it down from my point of view. It's either not been rehearsed well enough, or the shots that they used, they could have just redone because they just don't look realistic. So, why settle for that? I mean, he must be able to see that. Okay,
yeah,
that just wouldn't have worked. Never in a million months of Sundays is that kick when you're going to knock him down the hill or whatever it might be. The fight on the Liberator towards the end.
But if they used tighter shots, in some of the action scenes, tighter shots, they could have covered a lot of this up, but they just didn't.
Yeah. So it's just for me, it's just why didn't he just either redo that or give him more time to rehearse it? I suppose maybe they don't have the time. Perhaps I don't know. But, just the action scenes let it down for me.
Okay. Same question to you, Lynn.
Yep. I'll echo, I think, what you said about the action scenes, and pick up on what was mentioned earlier, that on the flip side, that early start to the episode on the Liberator, discussing what they're going to do, getting that character piece together. Yes, that's driven by the script, of course. But I think he directs those sorts of things perfectly well. They work for me. And maybe that's the other things that he's done that are less action based, more character. Maybe that's where he's more comfortable. But those for me, I'm cool with. That all works perfectly well. I think that sort of sums it up. Yeah, action not great. Other pieces all good.
Okay, Neil.
I don't think I've got much to add to what everyone else has said on here. To be honest, the action scenes are truly dreadful, and at some points it looks like Jenna's actually doing slow motion gymnastics rather than fighting someone. I'm not quite sure who choreographed that, to be honest with you, but there we are. But I think that it is quite good use of going close up in the scenes that Lynn mentioned to try and get the character bits working, and possibly that's where Pennant Robinson's strengths was. And I also liked the way that the scenes, I know it's a bit basic, the red filter on Sorry and Major, but I actually thought that it kind of worked for me, but maybe not for others. But I also like that, and I thought that them scenes, both on the planet and in the power station, were shot well as well. So I think there's a mix of positives and negatives there, to be honest.
Yeah, some great shots just available on the internet as well. Of the, they actually had a PR company go in on the day of shooting this particular episode and took a lot of the PR stuff that was used in the Radio Times and in the press. So some great stuff available online, and a lot of this as well going to be in in a lot of the books that we see and the magazines that we see from Cult Edge. So always worth taking a look on their website and picking up on some of the stuff. It's interesting point you make about the I did like the red filter as well, Neil. Again, a little bit of skepticism probably crept in with me, thinking it's probably because the plants that they made, the flesh-eating plants that Villa touches in the episode, probably looked so bad that they thought, how on earth do we make them look great? Let's just put let's put this red filter on, and it looks great. It really does. I think they could have put a bit of moisture on it though to make it look fleshy. But anyway, it did look right, and of course, the fact that they're using the quarry as well give it that kind of alien territory feel. So interesting stuff. Okay, so we move on, as we always do, to the best and worst of the episode in special effects and costumes. And we haven't had much to talk about in costumes on this, but costumes are starting to change, Dave. And there is quite a lot of scenery and special effects in this episode for you to either praise or pick apart.
Well, I don't like Jenna's outfit. The multicolored swap shop thing. It just doesn't fit in with anything else. I don't know why she's wearing that. Is it because she's a girl, and it's the 1970s? I don't know. That's a bit patronizing, I think. Special effects. The planet was good. The projectile was okay. There was some really bad special effects, as you would expect. When the projectile is being sort of docked into the Liberator, you can actually see it's on a stick.
No.
Yeah, you can.
No, I missed that. I was looking for it. But
not that screenshot you've got there, but further on as it turns round, you can actually see it's just on a stick. Well, you can on my system anyway.
Is it not just a crack in your screen, Dave?
No. I watched it on the big screen, and I watched it 3 times, and not all the time, but as it comes round. Oh, where's my hand? Oh, there. As it comes round like that, and to go vertically in, you can see it's on a stick. So you can see that.
I hasten to add that Dave converted a room in his house to a cinema room. Okay, and that is why Dave probably can see that and we can't, because I just watched it on my television. But you're like watching it. You're watching it like in a one-man cinema, more or less. Well, sorry, 2-man cinema. So the imperfections will be on.
You need a crappy 1970s TV box to watch these, Dave. You're just in the wrong.
Until November, but yes.
Yeah.
It does beg the question, though. It does beg the question: what are they going to do, or what have they done with the special effects in the Blu-ray? Because they couldn't have upgraded everything. It'd be impossible. And there's a possibility that some of the things that look pretty bad now are going to look a lot worse if they haven't been, upgraded or finessed on the Blu-ray. So that's the probe on the stick, as I called it. The pink plants, which were clearly polystyrene and they hadn't painted the ends of them properly, they were pretty bad. The in-plant or on-plant, I mean, there was 2 different implants, wasn't it? Earlier on in the scene, it looked like it was almost like a zip effect, and then later on, it looked like a battery for a phone or a watch battery stuck on the top of his head. So he had 2 different on-plants, not implants, on the top of his head. I couldn't understand that. What else have I got? No, I've been nitpicking. I mean, they're pretty big. The rest of the stuff was all right, But, I mean, they let themselves down with these polystyrene plants. They let themselves down with the probe on a stick. But maybe I could see that. And this implant, I just thought was ridiculous, Nick's enjoying this anyway.
All right, Nick. Like I said, they crammed a hell of a lot into this episode, Nick. When you watch it back, and you think about how much time they've got on screen, there was so much. And I mean, we obviously had the Liberator, which we have all the way through this series and next, but we also had, we had the other ship coming on board. We had to go through this whole docking procedure. We had teleportation. We had, the ship taken off. We had plants on another planet, and then of course we had the compound as well. So much to cram into one episode. I've got to be honest. I'll have to check Cult Edge's first book on Series A. I'm not sure how much this episode cost, but I would imagine they used a hell of a lot of the budget.
I would imagine so. It won't be cheap using somewhere like a nuclear power station, will it?
£3, Dave.
3 pensions of budget.
Yeah, William started it.
1 to me, 2 to you, and Nick was going to mention before, I could tell, but he hesitated.
I didn't want to incur your wrath.
Okay, Nick, what did you think?
Yeah, I think that in terms of the positive special effects, I like the sort of red filter of Saurian Major. I thought it was innovative and gave it a different feel, and it was probably quite simple for them to do, but I thought it was a good inventive thing to bring to an alien feel to it.
They used quality street wrappers over the camera lens.
Yes, that's probably all it was.
It worked.
In terms of the worst special effects, I thought that was quite easy for me. It was the explosions on Saurian Major, which they see on the screen right at the end. Because when you see it, when they teleport away from there, there's a little bang that the extras sort of stumble over and fall down, and then they're back on the Liberator, watching these huge planetary explosions going off. I thought the two don't quite correlate. And I thought, I thought that was quite poor.
And costumes, anything stand out on the costumes? Dave obviously mentioned Jenna's. Is there anything that stood out for you?
Okay, costumes, yeah. I thought Jan Chappell's costume was great. I thought she looked like what she was meant to be. She was in camouflage. She had a nice red costume for a red planet.
Exactly.
So I thought she looked cool. She stood out well. I thought in terms of worst costumes, I thought that was fairly easy. I thought it was the Guardians from the capsule looked pretty below par, shall we say?
Medieval, almost. Is it the escape from Cygnus Alpha? Maybe, yeah. But
they look like they've come off a pantomime for Aladdin.
Oh no, they don't.
Behind
God.
you.
There was a bit of that, wasn't there? And that scene that you just showed.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, they were really terrible, weren't they?
Yeah, Brian Blessed should have had those shoes in Cygnus Alpha, though. Those flip flops. We've moved on. We've moved on from that. Lynn, thoughts on the expansive special effects and spaceships and stuff, and the costumes?
Exactly. So, I mean, just since we mentioned it, costumes wise, I'm entirely with Nick. I thought Jan's red Cali outfit is great. The Time Squad Guardians, not so much. And everyone else somewhere in between. There's nothing, I think no Parkers yet, is it? We'll have those soon. Special effects. I know, Dave, I know. You just have to wait. The red filter, the red planet, it's the same themes. The planet look, yes, it's a quarry, and we're going to see a lot of quarries. But the red tint, the plants, albeit polystyrene, I think again they had dressed it, and I like the red filter, so that worked. I think the capsule, the fact that they had built a whole capsule to put in the studio, the one that they could just about climb out of and use, I quite liked that. It made a difference. In other situations, it wouldn't necessarily have gone that far, so I liked that. I think what else? Yeah, the power plant. Yes, it's a power plant. It's very steampunk for a communications center. I hadn't picked up on the explosions piece to quite the same extent, Nick. I'm gonna, next time I see it, it'll pick it up all over again. But yeah, and the docking, as well as the wording on the docking, just it went on for a very long time. So yeah, the chances to see the stick holding the capsule or something else, there was an awful lot of opportunity for something like that to creep in. So excuse me, again, I suspect you've got 50 minutes, so they've extended that docking somewhat, but nothing different to what people have picked up, I think. Sorry, Nick.
Padding, I believe it's called.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely a bit of padding in there. Neil, views on the special effects, mate, and the costumes.
There was one bit of the special effects when the capsule, they grab it and they bring it in, and then Avon, I think it says, put it up on the main screen, and you get a photo or a picture of the capsule in their hold. I thought that looked really good. Personally, I like that bit, and I agree with Lynn that, you know, to have a full model of a ship in that hold, I thought worked really, really well. I like that. So that's the plus point for me. The worst bit, I picked up on them explosions. What the hell was going on there? A little bang on a planet, and then you've got explosions the size of a planet exploding in space. What's happening here? I didn't get that. So that's the worst special effect for me, in all honesty. But I've got to jump in with a personal bugbear of mine, which I can't stand, right at the start of the episode, when you have the animations of the Liberator flying through space. I despise them. They're blooming awful. There's like 1 million planets all next to each other, and I just don't do it. They got enough stock footage of the Liberator flying through space. Just use that. It's fine. Here we are. That's my bit.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, outfits. Sorry, outfits. I mean, Jan just looks splendid in red, so it's just gotta be. That's the best outfit. Jenna's is awful. I also thought Avon's brown and beige number was pretty bad as well. But the worst one has got to go to the aliens. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, Callie does look fantastic. I love these black and white shots, by the way. I make no excuse for sharing with you if you haven't seen them, but these were great publicity shots that were taken, as I say, on set that day, and a bit of downtime as well, a bit of laughter going on from Jan and Paul as well, as they're sharing a joke on set. But love these black and white images, and captures the moment from set. For me, the only thing I'll add is the dodgy communicator, which Jenna obviously touches and it flies off the wall. We then have a line added in later on that the aliens must have smashed it, but when Jenna actually touches it, it's still intact on the wall. So that's a little bit of a pet hate of mine. It's clearly not broken, but then Jenna falls on it, it comes off dead easily. That's a pet hate of mine. I did like the spaceship. I didn't expect that in this episode. I forgot all about it. I remember it docking. I remember the whole storyline, but I couldn't remember what it looked like. And I think that I loved the awkwardness of it, and I loved the fact that I could climb in and out of it. I was looking for a few imperfections when it was in when it's in there, but I thought that was something that Pennant Roberts got right. The way that he had the ship in and positioned, and I'm looking behind to see if there's any of these, obviously it's a pull down shutter, but I let that go. I just think it looked like a spaceship within a spaceship, and that for me that really kept it just kept it real. It was good. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be perfectly honest. So I was pleased with that.
It's as good as you get in 70s BBC sci-fi, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, because
really
you're so in your own mind, you're thinking, bad sets, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, I thought they did really well with this. I thought they crammed a hell of a lot in. I'm now going to have to watch that docking procedure back to see on a television if I can see a stick. But again, that probably could have been shortened, to avoid that. It could have been a shorter stick. It could have been a shorter. It could have been a shorter clip. Would establish the fact the acting was good enough about turning, and all the stress and this, that, and the other. But again, probably prolonging it to make sure they hit that 50-minute target. And you know, this is the joys of making something quickly. And being under pressure to get episodes filmed, especially in the 1970s. So yeah, costumes. Yeah, you kind of get better than you know, Callie's costume in this one. I don't think the lads are all pretty mundane and boring still. You know, they clearly haven't been on the Liberator's wardrobe. They haven't had time to go and have a shuffle through yet and have a good look and a good mooch, but they do eventually, of course. And yeah, at the moment, it's just very much the same kind of gear each episode, isn't it, for the lads? And yeah, and I agree. Jenna's costume was, you know, it was, you know, let's show Jenna off. It was like wasn't, you know, nowadays they wouldn't do that. It was a lot different in those days, of course, and we'll keep saying that throughout each episode. But yeah, I get exactly where you're coming from on that. But yeah, I thought Callie looked the part. And you know, great stuff. So moving on from that, we now go to best actor of the episode and worst actor of the episode. You know, Dave, you know, I think you and I have already discussed the guest actors were appalling in this.
Yeah.
And
so I would say all the guest actors, especially our friends from the Projectile, were appalling. The main characters were all equally good. I'm really warming to Blake's sort of matter-of-fact attitude persona. I think he's really good. Is it Gain or Gan? Was it? What's his name?
Gan.
He's normally very good, but towards the end of this, when he's being dramatic and he's got his limiter on, I just thought he really chewed the scenery up quite a bit. Or as Barry Norman would say, he was slicing the ham very thick.
Right.
So he's generally very good, but towards the end of this episode, I thought he was really poor. So I'm not going to pick out one best actor. I think collectively they were all good, the main four. And collectively, all the extras were really bad. So
yeah,
that's
okay.
That's
a fair point. Nick, favourite actor in this one?
Jan Chappell. Although it was a very good introductory episode for her, and she played the part she was meant to be really well. She came across as, you know, freedom fighter, terrorist, whatever you want to term them. From any point of view, one thing, the people are one thing or the other. I thought she just came across in that role really well.
Okay, and worst actors, we didn't have any to choose from, but you know.
It's the three Guardians. They were, yeah, a bit naff.
Okay.
Easy choice, really.
It is, yeah, I think it is. Lynn.
Yeah, same again. Easy choices. I said it at the top. Jan Chappell and her initial alien, let's go with freedom fighter, portrayal of Callie is great. Yeah, the Guardians, not.
Yeah, it's an easy choice this week. Very rare do we get this kind of unanimous, you know, victory, I guess, for somebody. Neil, are you going to pick anybody other than Jan?
No is the answer, but I think Gareth Thomas was quite close. I thought he was excellent throughout this episode and really brought forward what Blake was going to be the leader and was very much in charge, and that came forward. But if you want like a Jan, you know, really speaking, it's just a cameo at the end, isn't it? But it doesn't have to make a big impression. I think if you watch that if you watch that episode live, you would have gone away going, "Who the heck was that alien who turned up at the end?" And it would have stuck in your memory. So I think she was excellent. David Jackson, when he was grunting around with a limiter, that was pretty bad, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, it is the three guest acters who are the worst. Yeah,
I'll agree. You know, I think it's a flip of the coin between Jan and Gareth. Gareth's superb, establishing the character of Blake. I love that opening 5 minutes. The opening 5 minutes on the Liberator, however long it was, is great in this episode. The crew are starting to establish each other, and I'm pretty sure Lynn's right that this was one of the first recorded, if not the first episode recorded, and to have that kind of synergy and connection between each other so early on, I think is superb. So yeah, brilliant stuff. Okay, the next one we focus on is the line, the best line in the episode, Dave.
Best line of the episode.
Well, did you pick one? Do you need us to come back to you?
No, I haven't got a worse line, which is unusual for me, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's a couple of Who references in there. Deaf, Dumb and Blind. I thought they were going to go into Pinball, was it? And then there was Who Are You, Who Are You, Who Are You? Later on. So there's a couple of Who references. But I think Villa's lines, I've got it written down here somewhere, but I can't quite find it.
I don't follow you. Is it that one?
No,
Oh, but you do, and that's the problem.
There we go. Thank you.
the line about I've been nervous all the time, and of course the Groucho Marx line, I'm going to live forever or die trying, which is pure Groucho Marx. So there was my favourite lines.
Okay, Nick, what about you? Favourite line in this episode?
Well, the one that Dave's just quoted there, the Villa one, or I should hate to be eaten by something stupid.
Yes.
And I think I'll go with that one because Dave's picked the Groucho Marx one.
Okay,
Yeah.
Lynn.
It's the one we just it's the when Blake's explaining what we're going to do and Villa's like, I don't follow you, and Avon, that start of that to and fro, as you say, between them with the oh but you do, and that's the problem, is perfect. It's all those character interactions that they develop more and more of, and is almost certainly Chris Boucher, and I really love it. That there was one more, I think, later when, because of course Avon's been asking Blake, saying, you're just telling us what to do. We want to talk about it, and that doesn't really happen. Blake just says, "Well, we're going to do this." He just explains it in a few more sentences rather than having a discussion, and that's exactly what Avon said. That falls a little short of my idea of a thorough discussion. It's the Avon character just coming out, that dry sort of disgruntlement generally, but still at the moment going along with what Blake's saying. He just wants to challenge it and make Blake work for it. So I like all of that. Love all of that. Yeah,
me too. Neil?
Yeah, there's a couple I've got written here. There was another one on the theme that Lynn just said, where Gan says to Avon, for a clever man, he's not very bright, deaf, dumb and blind. How are they going to catch us? But the response he then gives, I'm sure Blake will manage it somehow, is again on that theme of just having a pop at Blake and anything he seems to say or do. I liked Carly's rather sinister "May you die alone and silent" to Blake. I thought that was really well delivered. There was a great line that made me crack up, really, when they were on about how quickly the aliens could come to life and grow. Yeah. And Villa says we could be up to our armpits in homicidal maniacs within the hour. That made me giggle. But I have to say, it's a legendary line. I plan to live forever or die trying. That's a legendary line from the show, and has been made into T-shirts and all sorts. So I'm gonna have to go with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's the opening. It's the opening, and I've gone on about it for the last hour. And that opening gambit of this episode is fantastic, and you can pick any one of those lines out of that. I love it when Gan goes, "I think we make a good team," and Avon just goes, "Well, hooray for us!" And and it's his face, and that's why I suddenly became a big Avon fan. And you've already mentioned some of those like other. Those other little quirks that he has with Blake. I love that little line as well. Where Blake is talking about the relationship that he's got with the crew, and he says it was also agreed that anyone could opt out at any time. Just tell me when you want to leave. And Avon goes, "Oh, I will. But in the meantime, I think we have a right to know what it is you're planning." So then Blake goes, "Then set a course for Saurian Major, speed standard by 2. Zen, of course, confirms, and Avon goes, "That falls a little short of my idea of a thorough discussion." And of course, this comes up again right at the end of the episode where they've completed their trip, and again, Blake then says, set a course for Kent Row, and you just see Avon's face going, "He's done it again. He's done it again." And then, of course, the episode finishes, and you're thinking, "This is good. This is just going to run and run." Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah. Why standard by 2? I mean, I never got that. Why are you going slow? Twice he says standing by 2 in this episode. I'm like, you can go faster than that. It's not
Why didn't
Wales.
you just
20
go?
miles an hour speed limit, you know.
Just
It's
crank it up
Resident
to 12 and let's go. Just everywhere. Why hang around?
There's clearly some potholes in that bit of animation that was seen that you were talking about earlier on. Okay, before we get our marks out of 10 for this episode, I do want to give Neil, who I'd love to welcome back. I mean, we say this whenever we have guests on, but Neil, you've been a fantastic guest. We've loved your input, and if you're free, we will, and you're happy to add us to add you to our little group on Facebook. We'll notify you when the next show is, and if you can come on, it would be great to have you on because your input's great. We just want to give a chance to plug Vindictus Books, and there is a wonderful Facebook page which you'll be able to grab. There's lots of offers and stuff on there. You just need to go to the Facebook group to find it. Audio CDs and books in particular. The QR codes, which are very modern, millennials. If you just put your phone over a QR code, it takes you straight there. But yeah, look, I'm going through these just so people can see what it's all about and make sure that people can go and visit and go and buy the stuff. You need to go and buy it because if you want to know what happened after Gouda Prime, this is where to go to. Fascinating stuff, great stuff, and we met Neil at the convention earlier this year. It was a pleasure to meet him, and he was doing a roaring trade at the convention, and let's hope there's another one in 2025. But tell us what it's all about, Neil. How did it start, etc.?
I'll tell you about Vindictus.
Yes, please, and just and where the idea came from, who's involved.
This is where I get shy talking about myself, to be honest. But yes, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just something that I always wanted a sequel to Blake 7, and really the reason that I wanted to do it was because nothing ever really satisfied me as being something that I wanted to be a sequel to Blake 7. I didn't much like Tony Atwood's book. I didn't like that much. Didn't think it worked. Afterlife, everything seemed completely out of sync and out of character. And Paul Darrow's trilogy, it didn't grip me really as feeling like Blake 7 either. So I always wanted to try and write one myself. So I wanted to give the show a bit of breathing space. So it's set decades after Gouda Prime. So whatever you think might have happened or could have happened, you can work that through in your head, but you end up to where my novel starts. That's just what it is. but yeah, and then we've brought a new crew together, and it's set in the Blake 7 universe. There's a lot of stuff that fans of the show will be able to pick up, a lot of Easter eggs as we call it these days. There's a lot of references to the show and its past in there. We have a couple of past characters at the start, so I'm not going to give too much away, but there's a couple of the original crew in there, and then we end up with a new crew flying off into not the sunset, the dark set, really. And we're hoping to carry on and write a few more stories. So the first novel kind of had the first 3 parts in it. And then we've written a little novella, which is part 4, and we're hoping to start writing novellas as kind of like follow-up episodes, if you like, to make us a full season, if you like, and see where we go. And we've also done the magnificent thing of a full cast audio, which we've got loads of fans of the show involved in, playing various parts. Chrissy Pashley does a fantastic job of putting together the audio itself and making it sound really, really good. And a lot of amateur actors on there sounding not so amateur, and it's a really lot of good fun. So there's CDs of that, but you can also listen to it for free as well on YouTube if you want to as well. So if you don't want to buy the books and you don't want to buy the CDs, I like physical media, but if you want to just take in the story, you can listen to it for free as well.
Great stuff. Well, the link is below in the YouTube video, so just jump on that if you want to go straight to the Facebook page. You can find all the information out there. So marks out of 10 for the episode. Dave, over to you.
I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. Last week was my highest, or last episode was my highest score of 7. And I'm giving this a 6 out of 10 just because the action scenes were really poor. Otherwise, it might have been a 7. So if you went purely on the storyline, I might go 7, but I'm giving it a 6.
Okay, that's great. Nick?
I'm I'm marking it up from last week's, or last time's. We didn't do it last week, did we? But yeah, I'm going to give it a 7. I enjoyed it. Good.
7, Lynn?
Yeah, I did 7 as well. I thought each half of the story kind of came in either side of that for me. So 7 it is. Yeah.
Okay, Neil.
7, as Len would say. Yeah, it's a 7. And if it wasn't for some of the plot loopholes that I didn't like at the start, it would have been an 8. But it's a solid 7 for me. It's a good episode.
Great stuff. Well, it's a 7 from me as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, apart from the obvious, which I mentioned earlier on. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for me as well. So we move on to the next episode 5, which will be The Web. Looking forward to that. Will we see some real aliens for the first time? You'll have to wait and see. But for now, thanks to Dave, thanks to Nick, thanks to Lynn, thanks to Neil. You can also find The Word on Blake 7 on Facebook, just like our page. And you'll find out a lot more information about when the next episode is coming out on there. But for now, it is time to play our wonderful intro. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
The word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word, the word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word, the word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word,